Hey everyone, my name's Travis. I'm here to talk about Survivor 50. Uh, didn't talk about the first episode last week. Long episode. It was hard to comprehend Kyle's departure from the game. So that was pretty, you know, it was a bummer to see him go. I really like Kyle. Uh, in this episode, we get to see the reactions of the other teams on their feelings about him leaving the game. Kamilla obviously being upset. Um, but it honestly didn't seem like there was a lot of conversation around him because it seemed like it got pretty quickly to Ozzy and coach's beef with each other, which isn't surprising. I mean, their, you know, meet and greet, so to speak, at that initial challenge last week, where they kind of buried the hatchet, very short lived. Um, wasn't expecting that to last, just because I think they're probably both, maybe in the back of their minds, anxious or looking to, oh, can we ever trust this person again? So I'm not surprised that they are back at each other's throats. This video isn't going to be too long. I think there's just a few points I wanted to touch on. Um, the initial conversations about the tribe, Aubrey talking about everyone in her tribe being like, I don't know the word, if it was crazy or chaotic. Dee talked about her tribe being a mess. So it's interesting to see the dynamics of returning players since it's been a while since we've had returning players. Um, and with this season, I was a little, unsure of some of the players that were returning because you think, okay, there are players who've been around three or four times. Do we really need to see them again? Um, but now that they're on the screen, it's like Ozzy's name came up last night. I was like, what? Why are we getting rid of Ozzy? And I do like that, he wants to pair up with Suri. I like that Suri is, having his back. Um, just seeing her excited that uh, Ozzy gave her his extra vote for her to have. And like she talked about that was her first ever advantage she ever had in Survivor. I was like, is that true? Is that real? Like, and that's just such a testament to her game. Like, no one is saying her name except the person who went home last week, Jenna, um, which is bananas. Like, how do we have one of the best players to ever play not be an immediate target? Um, and I mean, honestly, I would probably be the same way. I would want to play with Suri. Like, she seems like, is she the kindest person to ever play? I mean, obviously, the game is cutthroat. There's backstabbing, blindside. I mean, the definition of a blindside, you don't see it coming. But there's clearly evidence from Survivor, traders, that there's this genuine bond and trust that you get with Suri. And I don't know if there's another player that can have that said about them. So I really wanted to point out like that Suri, her name got mentioned last week and that person is gone. Her name's not brought up this week. She's moving. Savannah, you know, rightfully sniffed out that Suri was trying to direct the attention away from Ozzy. I mean, Savannah, super savvy player. Um, Not just a challenge beast. She has, you know, intuition of being able to just see through things. And I thought she would be okay. I thought at the beginning of the season, I was like, yes, she's a returning player. Um, but because she is so capable in challenges, I thought, okay, her tribe would be okay. And she wouldn't have that much risk of being sent home. Um, and So when her name got brought up, I was like, I mean, it makes sense. She's the unknown commodity, her and Rizzo. I mean, Rizzo's another story. I mean, last week we saw him, you know, telling Colby, "Oh, let me know if you need help. You just got to tell me it's how it works now." I was like, "Geez," like, and he admitted in this episode that he came off a little uh too quick, or I'm not sure which word he used to describe himself, but at least I'm glad that he recognized that like he did not come off the best when he started season 50. Um, I'm not gonna spend more time on him. I do want to focus on appreciating because obviously Savannah was sent home. I think the creators of the show, the editors did a great job indicating Ozzy and Joe as potential. I was like, Ozzy's going to go home again. He's going to go home with an idol, which I think that happened. Was that Micronesia that happened? Um, so I was concerned that the votes were shifting because the episode kind of started with his name, and then before Tribal Council, it shifted back to Ozzy's name. I was like, oh, you know, you know, whatever Sari did in the middle, like it kind of got lumped over. But I mean, it was a clean sweep. Everyone else voted for Savannah. And I just have to imagine that the fact that she won and admitted it, um, I think gave them a lot of information already. Um, and maybe the unknown was proven by her winning. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but I think that the players on this season, many of them, I think, have an ability to kind of read through the lines and gauge how well a person is at the game. Um, Joe asked Rick a certain question about what he and Savannah were talking about, um, uh, and completely threw him off. Um, and that led to a blow up. Um, and the episode was just highlighting everyone kind of coddling Joe, which is super weird. Like, I guess in his season, you saw maybe a little bit of the confrontations of him talking with people one on one. But this episode, just that was all what everyone was like. Christian was talking through the hammock, like telling him he's uncertain of how to speak to him about who he might want to target. Um, and that's not a great look. Like I was surprised that the show portrayed Joe that way. And but not the show didn't portray him. I mean, you're seeing Joe's responses. Um, so again, I do think the show does a really good job most of the time redirecting on who might go home. And I thought that Ozzy was going to go. I did think that Joe was a very good possibility. So when it came down the line, all Savannah's was like, wow, like they must have all came together and just were like, you know what? She's already won. We can tell that she's a gamer. Like she knows what's up. She can see through what Cerise's doing, trying to redirect for Ozzy. I have to say, I appreciated Savannah's, response at the end of getting her torch snuffed. Obviously very emotional. It was like a 2 week period between her season and this season. Like not only the stress of a full season on your body and, the strain of like constantly being on like with your brain and I do appreciate what she said. I can't remember exactly, but it shows that she really appreciates the game. She appreciated her time. Um, I think the game means a lot to her, like most players. So I really, like Savannah, I think is a player that you want to play with. I think if if you want to play with someone who's got your back, I think she's the type of player who will have your back. Um, And again, she's super smart. She can. I think she doesn't have a problem of like sniffing a situation out. Um, so I think I was a little surprised that it was a clean sweep when I thought it was going to be Ozzy, but if you think about it, it makes sense. I don't know if there was anything differently she could have done. Um, yeah, I think with everyone voting for her, I don't know if there's anything she could have done differently. Um, so yeah, I think other than that, like the challenge, you know, pretty tough challenge, carrying that massive snake, you know, undoing all the ropes that were tied up against the wall, carrying it through a maze under a tight net, through a rope obstacle, and then nailing the rings at the end. I mean, it looked like uh, the people who were carrying the snakes were completely gassed at the end. I know, uh, blanking on names. I know Colby looked like he's bent over, holding onto his knees, like um, so that definitely looked like a grueling challenge. Um, and yeah, I don't think I'm gonna belabor it anymore. I think it was a good episode. Um, I think I think I would have liked to have seen Savannah stay on the screen a little more just because I think she is such a good competitor. And honestly, I don't know if it was Dee or Savannah who said what it would look like, or maybe I said, I don't know. I, I ramble sometimes, but I think the idea of seeing Savannah and Dee going for individual immunity would have been freaking awesome. I think that would have been an epic type of battle. So I'm kind of sad that we don't get to see that. I'm looking forward to see what happens next week. But I imagine there'll be more, good red herrings in there throwing us off who's going to go home. We'll see what happens with because they're going to drop buffs, switch tribes, right? So, I think if you get to a new tribe and if you have an idol and you don't have your numbers, I think you play an idol if you have one. That's Aubrey, Ozzy. I think do your best to stay in the game. Um, Even if you burn the idol, but if you have a hint of you're going to go home, you should play it. All right, that's all I got to say. If you like this, let me know. If I ramble too much, let me know. Um, Maybe I'll be back here next week to talk about it. Until next time, see you.